The text from my sister Victoria came at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Elena, we need to talk about Mom's birthday party. I was standing in the lobby of the Riverside Towers, watching the contractors install new elevator panels. My property manager, James, was explaining the timeline for the common area renovations. I glanced at my phone and typed back, "What about it?" The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Don't come. You'll embarrass us." I stared at the message. Around me, workers carried materials back and forth. The lobby echoed with hammering and drilling. James was still talking about marble versus granite for the reception desk, but his voice faded into background noise. "Don't come." I texted back. "You know why," Victoria replied. "The way you dress. The way you look. Mom's friends will be there. Her whole social circle. We can't have you showing up in your thrift store clothes and ratty sneakers." I looked down at my outfit. Faded jeans with a hole in one knee. A gray hoodie I'd owned for 6 years. White sneakers that had seen better days. She wasn't wrong about the description, just about what it meant. "It's Mom's 58th birthday," I typed. "I'm her daughter." "And you'll ruin it," came the response. "I'm sorry, but that's the truth." "Dad agrees. We'll celebrate with you separately. Just, not at the actual party." I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not surprise, I'd seen this coming for years. But disappointment still stung. "Okay," I typed back. "Okay." Victoria's message came quickly. "You're not going to fight this?" "No. If you don't want me there, I won't come. Thank you for understanding. I knew you'd be reasonable about this." I put my phone away and turned back to James. "Sorry about that. What were you saying about the reception desk?" He gave me a concerned look. "Everything all right, Ms. Martinez?" "Fine. Just family stuff." I gestured at the samples he was holding. "I like the marble. Let's go with that." "And James? I want to schedule a meeting with you tomorrow about the tenant situation in Building B." "The eviction notices?" "Exactly." My mother's name was Isabel Martinez. She'd worked as a dental hygienist for 35 years before retiring 2 years ago. My father, Robert, had been a manager at a telecommunications company. They'd raised 3 children in a modest house in the suburbs, always emphasizing the importance of appearance, of success, of what other people thought. Victoria was the oldest at 36. She'd married a corporate lawyer named David and lived in a luxury apartment at Riverside Towers, one of the nicest buildings in the city. She worked in marketing, wore designer clothes, and posted carefully curated photos on social media of her perfect life. Then there was my brother Carlos, 34, who worked in finance and lived in the same building as Victoria. He drove a BMW, belonged to an exclusive gym, and dated women who looked like they'd stepped out of fashion magazines. And then there was me, Elena, 31 years old. The disappointment. I dropped out of business school after 1 year. Too expensive, I told them. Too impractical. I wanted to learn by doing, not by sitting in classrooms. My parents had been devastated. Victoria had been ashamed. Carlos had laughed and said I'd end up working retail forever. For a while it looked like he was right. I worked at a coffee shop, then a bookstore, then as a receptionist at a real estate office. I lived in a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. I shopped at thrift stores and rode the bus because I couldn't afford a car. What my family didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that I was learning. Every job taught me something. The coffee shop taught me customer service and inventory management. The bookstore taught me retail operations and marketing. The real estate office taught me everything. I started small. At 24, I bought my first property, a rundown duplex in a bad part of town. I used every penny I'd saved, took out a massive loan, and spent 6 months renovating it myself. YouTube became my teacher. I learned plumbing, electrical work, drywall repair, painting. I made countless mistakes and fixed them all. When I rented out both units, the rental income covered my mortgage and gave me a small profit. So I did it again. And again. By 27, I owned 6 properties. By 29, I owned 15. By 30, I'd saved enough to make a serious play. Riverside Towers went on the market when the previous owner died and his children wanted to liquidate quickly. 2 buildings, 240 luxury apartments total, prime location in the city center. The asking price was $47 million. I offered $43 million all cash, close in 30 days. They accepted. I owned the building where my sister and brother lived, where my parents visited for Sunday dinners, where they hosted parties and bragged to their friends about their children's success. They had no idea their struggling, disappointing daughter was their landlord. The day after Victoria's text, I received another message in the family group chat. My mother had posted, "So excited for Saturday. Can't wait to celebrate with my amazing children and their wonderful families. 2 hearts party popper." Victoria commented, "We love you, Mom. It's going to be perfect." Carlos added, "Got you something special. You're going to love it. Wrapped gift." I stared at the messages. 3 years ago I would have commented too. I would have sent heart emojis and exclamation points trying to be included. Now I just watched. My father posted a photo of the private dining room they'd reserved at an upscale restaurant. "Only the best for my beautiful wife," he'd written. I zoomed in on the photo. I recognized that room. I'd been there before, not as a guest but as the person who'd negotiated the lease. I owned that restaurant building too. It was part of a commercial property portfolio I'd acquired 2 years ago. My phone rang. It was James, my property manager. "Ms. Martinez, I have the information you requested about the Martinez/Delgado units in Building B. Go ahead. Victoria and David Delgado are in Unit 2847. They've been tenants for 4 years. Rent is $4,200 monthly and they're current on payments. Carlos Martinez is in Unit 2903. 3 years, $3,800 monthly, also current. However, both tenants have multiple noise complaints. Victoria and David hosted a party last month that went until 3 a.m. Building security was called 3 times. Carlos has had complaints about loud music on weeknights. We've issued warnings but the behavior continues. What does our lease say about repeated violations? 3 strikes policy. They've each had 2 strikes. 1 more violation and we can issue eviction notices." I was quiet for a moment thinking. Let's schedule that call for tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock. I'll be there. Saturday morning arrived. I woke up early in my small apartment, a 1-bedroom in a building I didn't own, in a neighborhood my family would never visit. I made coffee in my ancient coffee maker, ate toast and sat by the window watching the sunrise. My phone buzzed. Victoria had posted photos in the family chat. Her getting her hair done at an expensive salon. Her outfit laid out on the bed. A designer dress that probably cost 3 months of my apparent salary. Getting ready for Mom's party. Sparkles. My mother responded immediately, "You look beautiful, honey." Carlos posted a photo of a gift bag from a luxury store. "Ready to spoil Mom. Wrapped gift." I sipped my coffee and said nothing. At 11 a.m. my phone rang. It was James. "Ms. Martinez, we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Building B, Unit 2847. Victoria Delgado's apartment. They're hosting some kind of gathering. It's only 11 a.m. and there are already noise complaints. They're setting up what looks like a full party in the common areas. Decorations, catering tables. They didn't book the event space or get permission." I closed my eyes. Let me guess. Mom's birthday party. I'm sorry. They moved the party from the restaurant to the apartment. Did they cancel our event space reservation? Let me check. Yes. Cancelled yesterday. No refund since it was less than 48 hours notice. Of course. I stood up and grabbed my keys. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't do anything until I arrive. Riverside Towers was beautiful in the afternoon light. Glass and steel reaching 30 stories into the sky. I'd bought it because it was a solid investment but also because of what it represented. Success. Stability. Everything my family valued. I parked my beat-up Honda Civic in the visitor lot and walked through the main entrance. The doorman Marcus recognized me immediately. "Ms. Martinez. We weren't expecting you today. I heard there's a situation on the 28th floor." His professional expression cracked slightly. "The Delgado apartment. They've taken over half the floor for some party. Multiple tenants have complained." I took the elevator up, my heart pounding. I'd avoided this moment for years. I'd kept my ownership quiet, paid through an LLC, conducted all business through James. My family had no idea. The elevator doors opened to chaos. The entire hallway was decorated with balloons and streamers. A catering table was set up near the elevator, blocking the emergency exit. Music was already playing, loud enough to violate noise ordinances. Victoria's apartment door was open. I could see her inside, directing caterers and adjusting flower arrangements. She wore the designer dress from her photo. Her hair was perfect. She looked like she belonged in a magazine. I walked up in my jeans and hoodie and knocked on the open door. Victoria turned, saw me, and her face went from surprised to horrified to angry in 3 seconds. "Elena? What are you doing here? I heard there was a party. I told you not to come." She looked past me into the hallway, checking if anyone was watching. "You said you understood." "I did understand. I'm not here for the party." "Then why are you here?" She walked toward me, lowering her voice. "You can't be here. Mom will be arriving any minute. She can't see you dressed like that." "Like what?" "Like you're homeless," Victoria hissed. "I know that sounds harsh, but Elena, look at yourself. You're embarrassing." Before I could respond, my phone rang. James's number. I answered. "Ms. Martinez, I'm in the lobby with building security. We need to address the 28th floor situation. The party is blocking fire exits and we've received 8 noise complaints in the past hour." I looked at Victoria, who was staring at me with confusion as I spoke professionally into the phone. "I'm already here," I said. "28th floor. Give me 5 minutes, then come up." "Yes, ma'am." I hung up. Victoria's expression had shifted. "Who was that?" "Building management." "Why are they calling you?" I pulled out my phone and opened the family group chat. Victoria, Carlos, and my parents were all on the call. They'd been planning party logistics. "Victoria," my mother's voice came through. "Why aren't you answering? We're almost there." "Hold on, Mom," Victoria said, still staring at me. I smiled. "Actually, keep them on the line. They should hear this too." Before Victoria could protest, I raised my voice slightly. "Hi, Mom. Dad. Carlos. Hope you're having a good day." Silence on the other end. Then my father's voice. "Elena? Is that you?" "It's me." "What are you doing at Victoria's apartment?" my mother asked. "I thought we discussed." "I'm not here for the party," I interrupted. "I'm here because as of 2 minutes ago, Victoria has received her 3rd noise violation and is in violation of building policies regarding unauthorized events in common areas." "What are you talking about?" Carlos's voice joined in. Right on cue, the elevator dinged. James stepped out, followed by 2 security guards. He was carrying a tablet and wearing his professional property manager expression. "Ms. Martinez," he said, nodding to me. Then he looked at Victoria. "Mrs. Delgado, we need to discuss the situation here." Victoria looked between us, confused. "I don't understand. Elena, why is building management talking to you?" James looked at me, waiting for permission. I nodded. "Because Ms. Elena Martinez owns this building," he said simply. "She's my boss. She's everyone's landlord." The silence was absolute. Through the phone I heard my mother gasp. Victoria's face went pale. "That's impossible," she whispered. I pulled out my tablet and opened the property management app. Building B, Riverside Towers. Purchased 3 years ago for $43 million. Current value approximately $51 million. 120 residential units, 94% occupancy rate. I showed her the screen. "See? That's your unit number. 2847. Leaseholder Victoria and David Delgado. Current rent, $4,200 monthly." "This is a joke," Victoria said, but her voice was shaking. "It's not." I looked at James. "Can you pull up the violation history?" He tapped his tablet and turned it toward Victoria. Unit 2847. First violation. Unauthorized party February 18th. Second violation. Excessive noise March 3rd. Third violation. Today's date. According to Section 12 of your lease agreement, 3 violations within a 6-month period constitute grounds for eviction. "Elena, what is happening?" My mother's voice was high-pitched, panicked. I took the phone off speaker and held it to my ear. "What's happening is that I own the building where Victoria and Carlos live. I've owned it for 3 years. And they're both violating their leases." "You can't own this building," my father said. That's ridiculous." You work at a coffee shop. I worked at a coffee shop 8 years ago. Then I worked in real estate. Then I bought real estate. I now own 17 properties across the city, including Riverside Towers, the commercial building where you're supposed to be having dinner tonight, and about $73 million worth of assets total. The silence stretched so long I thought they'd hung up. 73 million, Carlos finally said. You're saying you're worth $73 million? Give or take. Property values fluctuate. That's impossible, Victoria repeated. She'd sat down on her couch, still holding a balloon. You're lying. I pulled up my banking app and showed her the screen. She went even paler. How? My mother whispered. How is this possible? I learned. I worked. I invested. I spent 10 years building something while you all assumed I was failing. I looked at Victoria. I bought this building 3 years ago. You moved in 4 years ago, which means you were already here when I bought it. You've been paying rent to me this entire time. You let us think, Victoria started then stopped. You let us believe you were poor. I never said I was poor. You assumed it. Because you dress like a homeless person, she shouted. Because you live in a terrible apartment and drive a car from 2008. Because you never spend money on anything. I spend money on things that matter, I corrected. Property. Investments. My future. Not on impressing people who judge me by my clothes. James cleared his throat. Ms. Martinez, about the situation here. I looked at the hallway. The decorations, the catering table, the noise. 8 complaints from other tenants who'd paid good money to live in a peaceful building. Issue the violation notice, I said quietly. That's 3 for Unit 2847. And check Unit 2903. If Carlos has been contributing to the noise, that's his 3rd strike too. Wait. Victoria jumped up. You can't evict us. I can actually. It's in your lease. But we're family. Are we? I asked. Because family invites each other to birthday parties. Family doesn't tell people they're too embarrassing to be seen in public. My mother was crying now. I could hear it through the phone. Elena, please. Let's talk about this. Come to the party. We'll fix this. I don't want to come to the party, Mom. I never wanted to come to the party. What I wanted was to not be uninvited like I'm some kind of embarrassment. We didn't mean. My father started. You did mean it, I interrupted. Victoria texted me and said I'd embarrass you. You agreed with her. You all agreed with her. You've been agreeing with her for years. Every time someone made a comment about my clothes or my car or my life, you all nodded along. You all assumed I was failing. Because you never told us. Carlos shouted through the phone. How were we supposed to know? You could have asked, I said simply. You could have asked what I did for work. What my life was like. What my plans were. But you didn't ask. You just judged. James shifted uncomfortably. The security guards were trying not to listen. Victoria was crying now, her perfect makeup starting to run. I'm issuing the violation notices, I said to James. Give them 30 days to correct the lease violations or vacate. No. Victoria grabbed my arm. Please. Elena, please. We can't lose this apartment. David's parents visit. Our friends are here. This is our home. It's a rental property, I corrected. And you violated the lease. Multiple times. We'll stop. No more parties. No more noise. I promise. I looked at her. Really looked at her. My big sister who I'd idolized as a child. Who used to let me borrow her clothes and do my makeup. Who somewhere along the way had started looking at me with pity instead of love. The violations stand, I said. But I'll give you a choice. You can leave voluntarily in 30 days with a good reference for your next landlord. Or you can fight the eviction, lose, and have it on your rental history forever. That's not a choice. It's more of a choice than you gave me about Mom's party. My mother's voice came through the phone, desperate now. Elena, baby, please. Don't do this. We're sorry. We're so sorry. We didn't know. Didn't know what? That I was successful? Would it have mattered? Would you have treated me better if you'd known I was rich? Silence. That's what I thought, I said quietly. I looked at James. Clear the common areas. Issue the violations. And I want a full inspection of both units for any other lease violations. Yes, ma'am. He turned to Victoria. Mrs. Delgado, You need to remove all decorations and catering equipment from the public hallways immediately. The party in your unit can continue, but at acceptable noise levels only. This is insane, Carlos's voice came through the phone. Elena, you can't just. I can, I interrupted. I'm the owner. This is my building. These are my rules. You've been breaking them for months. I walked toward the elevator, but Victoria's voice stopped me. What about Mom's party? I turned back. What about it? It's today. We can't just cancel. You should have thought of that before you uninvited me. Please, my mother said through the phone. Please, Elena. It's my birthday. Can we put this aside for one day? Have dinner as a family? I thought about it. Thought about sitting at a table while they processed this information. While they looked at me differently, not as the failure, but as the secretly successful sibling who'd hidden it from them. I'll make you a deal, I said finally. The party can continue here. At appropriate noise levels. And I'll join you for dinner tonight. But first we're going to talk. Really talk. About why I never told you. About why you never asked. About what comes next. Okay, my mother said quickly. Yes. Anything. And Victoria? I looked at my sister. You apologized to every tenant in this hallway who had to listen to your party at 11 a.m. on a Saturday. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. And Carlos. I raised the phone. You have 1 week to get your noise violations under control or you're out too. I understand, he said quietly. I took a breath. James, cancel the eviction proceedings for now. But keep the violations on record. One more incident and we move forward. Yes, ma'am. That evening, I sat at a table in a private dining room with my family. I was still wearing my jeans and hoodie. My mother sat across from me in her party dress, her eyes red from crying. My father was quiet, staring at his wine glass. Victoria and David looked shell-shocked. Carlos kept glancing at me like I was a stranger. I need you all to understand something, I said. I didn't hide my success to hurt you. I hid it because I knew what would happen if I told you. What do you mean? My mother asked. I mean you would have treated me differently. But not because you were proud of me. Because you finally deemed me acceptable. Worthy of your time and attention. I looked around the table. I didn't want that. I wanted you to love me when I was struggling. When I was working at the coffee shop and living in a studio apartment. When I was the family disappointment. We did love you, my father said. Did you? Because it never felt like it. It felt like you were ashamed of me. We were worried, my mother protested. Not ashamed. Worried. You uninvited me to your birthday party because I'd embarrass you. That's not worry. That's shame. She had no response to that. I built something, I continued. Something real. Something I'm proud of. And I did it without your approval or your help or your belief in me. I did it because I believed in myself even when no one else did. We should have believed in you, Victoria said softly. I see that now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry too, Carlos added. For all the jokes. All the comments. I was a complete jerk. You were, I agreed. But I forgive you. Both of you. Mom, Dad, I forgive you too. But things need to change. How? My father asked. How do we change this? You start by asking questions instead of making assumptions. You start by looking at people for who they are, not what they own or wear or drive. You start by understanding that success looks different for everyone. My mother reached across the table and took my hand. I'm proud of you, Elena. Not because of the money or the buildings. Because you did something incredible against all odds. Because you proved us all wrong in the best way possible. Thank you, Mom. He squeezed my hand. Will you forgive me for the party? For listening to Victoria instead of standing up for my daughter? I already have. We talked for hours that night. Really talked for the first time in years. I told them about my first property purchase, about the mistakes and the victories. They told me about their fears, their assumptions, their regrets. It wasn't perfect. Years of hurt don't disappear in one conversation. But it was a start. As I drove home that night in my beat-up Honda Civic, I thought about what had changed and what hadn't. I still lived in a modest apartment. I still wore thrift store clothes. I still chose to invest my money rather than display it. But now my family knew. And more importantly, they understood. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Thank you for giving us another chance. I promise I'll do better. Then Carlos, you're actually kind of a badass. Who you? Then my mother, I love you, Mija. Always have. Always will. I smiled and texted back to each of them. Then I went home, made tea in my old kitchen and sat by the window. Tomorrow I had a property inspection scheduled. Next week I was closing on another building. Next month I'd expand my portfolio even further. But tonight I was just Elena Martinez. 31 years old. Secretly successful. Finally seen by the family who'd looked at her for years without truly seeing her at all. And honestly, that was worth more than all 17 properties combined.